As the new Canadian cabinet swears in, the ambassador of Canada to Armenia, Andrew Turner, sits down with the voice of Yerevan. Where are Armenia-Canada traditionally friendly relations headed under the new leadership? Is continuity of foreign policy guaranteed, or are there shifts on the way? Excellency, thank you for this opportunity.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's a great pleasure.
New government, new policies. Is it already obvious what the traditionally friendly Armenia-Canada relations will be in the near future?
Absolutely, and there's a clear sense that our relationship will continue to develop and expand on the very positive track that it has existed on for many years, given the very active ties that we have at a person-to-person level through the Canadian-Armenian diaspora, through the commitment that Canada has made to increasing our engagement with Armenia as it embraces this path of democratic reform that the people have chosen in recent years. There is strong cross-partisan support, and so the work that our government has undertaken, perhaps most obviously with the opening of the embassy in recent years, will undoubtedly continue. And just as I am equally certain that our strong support for Armenia's sovereignty and territorial integrity will continue as well.
Armenian authorities recently seek to diversify foreign politics, and strategic partnerships have been signed with the United States, with the Netherlands. Is one with Canada in sight?
We have begun a process of holding annual consultations. The most recent iteration took place here in Yerevan a few months ago, and the one before that was in Canada. So I think this process of expanding our relationship through these consultations, through the work of the embassy here to identify areas for partnership, will continue. Again, with a brand new government, it's too soon to say whether or not we'll engage in the idea of a strategic dialogue, but certainly I would say that regardless of what it is referred to as, that process of discussion and deepening partnership will absolutely continue.
Despite being on the same page when it comes to principles and values, commitment to peace and stability, dialogue, democracy, human rights, Armenia-Canada relations translate into an unimpressive circulation of commodities or mutual investment. The economic turf is where we need to dig deeper. Where do you see untapped potential in Canada-Armenia relations? Where exactly cooperation should be expanded?
Well, I'd say, first of all, the major focus of our activities here to date, leaving aside the logistics of just getting the mission fully operational, of course, have been very much anchored around the idea of supporting Armenia's democratic reform process. This really going back to 2018, and the commitment that the people of Armenia have shown, the desire they have shown to embrace democracy, to engage more with the Euro-Atlantic community, has been something that we have very much welcomed, and of course had the very good fortune from a Canadian perspective of happening just a few months before Armenia hosted the Sommet de la Francophonie, which meant that our then Prime Minister, Trudeau, and then Minister for la Francophonie, Mélanie Joly, who then became our foreign minister, had that direct first-hand experience of seeing how committed the government and how committed the people of Armenia were to democracy. So very much that has been the driving area. And we've worked with the National Assembly, we have worked with parliamentarians, we've worked with the government, and now that the embassy is here, we're able to expand our cooperation with civil society, with academia, with the media. So I think that really is the major area of focus. But I also hope very much that we can further expand our commercial partnership. We've already seen some progress, particularly in the agriculture, agri-food sectors, where there was more than a 30% increase in the bilateral trade last year. But with the embassy here, we now have, for the first time in Canada's history, a permanent trade representative working out of the embassy on a full-time basis rather than just from the region. And so with that increased focus, we'll be able to expand the commercial ties as well. And I think that's very important because, of course, as we see more business, that tends to gather more attention. We see more people going back and forth. So it will further strengthen the ties, further strengthen the knowledge in Canada about Armenia and awareness of the opportunities, which we already have the strong foundation from the Canadian-Armenian diaspora, but I hope we can see it expanded more broadly across the entirety of the Canadian population. Obviously, there are many other areas as well, culture, students, and academia, but I would say we're a lot of focus right now on democracy and trying to put more and more focus on the commercial relationship.
Canada is an overseas important and potential investor. If we see economic investment as a security component, indirectly though, what's the untapped potential for Canadian companies in Armenia?
Well, I think there is tremendous potential. Obviously, you look at the initial facts, and Canada, yes, is very far away from Armenia. Armenia is a comparatively small country, comparatively small market. But then if you look at things in more depth, you see a lot of complementarity between the Canadian and Armenian economies that could be expanded. So we have a lot of experience in Canada, for example, in clean tech and green energy, which is a major focus of Armenia right now. Obviously, we both have a lot of experience in the agricultural sector, so there's potential sharing of expertise, sharing of equipment, training, as well as direct exchanges of products. Perhaps most famously, of course, Armenia's IT sector is incredibly diverse and expanding, and Canada also has leading strengths in this area. So there's a lot of possibilities. And then maybe as a final one would be within the education sector, where the potential for is already being discussed in several cases between some Canadian university programs working with counterparts here in Armenia. Obviously, the idea of attracting more students, both from Canada or from Armenia, to study, and the benefits of international education that can come from it. So there are a lot of potential sectors, and hopefully we'll see them develop. I suppose maybe one final one would, of course, be within the extractive sector. Canada has a lot of experience in mining, in energy, and again, tremendous opportunities here in Armenia, which is why I think the process of reform and increased engagement with the West, the increased engagement with Europe, as well as with North America, is so important, because it's that commitment to reform, to the rule of law, to the guarantees of investments that make it so. Those are very important for business people who are making decisions about where to focus. So the fact that Armenia, and unlike many other countries in this region, has been moving to embrace these reforms, has been moving to provide that degree of stability and security, is a very positive sign that I think will attract more and more interest from the Canadian business community going forward.
Canada has an expert in the European Union mission along Armenia-Azerbaijan border. As you know, one of the preconditions for Baku to sign the peace treaty is the withdrawal of EUMA. What's Canada's position on these preconditions? Never ending, always building up.
Well, first of all, Canada is very proud that we were the first non-EU country to take part in the EUMA observer mission. We think this is a very tangible demonstration of Canada's support for Armenia's sovereignty and territorial integrity. And from my own personal experience, just going around and speaking with people, officials, academics, media, just people on the street, outside of the actual decision to open the embassy, I think the decision to contribute to the EUMA mission is what
second important.
Most people notice about Canada's increased engagement here. So I think that's very positive, and I'm very pleased that we've been able to play that role. In terms of the discussions, obviously both the EU and then Canada as a contributing country to the EU mission have made it clear that we are here to support Armenia. We are here at the request of Armenia. We're playing the role that has been agreed to with Armenia. And so if that role is to be modified in the future, then we will be happy to play whatever role that Armenia would like us to play in that context. I think in terms more broadly of the peace process, it is very much something that we support and encourage. The reaching of the draft agreement or agreement on the draft text was a very welcome step, and we certainly hope that the parties will move forward to sign it as the agreement as soon as possible and continue then the work on all of the other aspects of border delimitation. For example, the instability that persists so long as there isn't a peace agreement is a problem for everyone. Obviously, the closed borders, the risks of accidental incidents that could spread into a wider conflict, which again, I think the EUMA mission has played a key role in helping to ensure that that does not happen. But these are just basic risks that could cause problems. And then, of course, so long as there is that uncertainty, to go back to your previous discussion, it's much more difficult for business community or international investors to look at the South Caucasus as a region that they should consider investing in. Whereas if you were to switch to a scenario where there is a peace agreement, where we move forward with normalization between Armenia and Turkey as well, and you have the potential for regional economic integration along the lines of the Crossroads for Peace initiative that the government here has put forward, then all of a sudden the picture is completely transformed, and there are tremendous opportunities that would benefit Azerbaijan, Armenia, Turkey, as well as the international community. By contrast, so long as the conflict is unresolved, there is that uncertainty, and there is then the risk for, as I say, accidents to happen, things to spill out of control, miscommunication. Certainly it's a disincentive for international investment. And unfortunately, as we've seen too often in the past, it opens space for countries like Russia that may view it to their advantage to play the countries off against each other to continue to do so. So from our perspective, Canada strongly supports the peace agreement. We think that it benefits all of the parties, and we hope and are doing everything we can to encourage its signature as quickly as possible.
Canada is an overseas potentially valuable investor. With little dependence on Baku for oil, Canada can and does afford to speak up when it comes to injustice. Political alignment with peace agenda, though, should grow into deeper involvement in the region. Whether the new government will step up their game will show in the near future. 24 new faces on the Canadian cabinet. Will they enhance the country's influence in the region? Hopefully so. Canada has always supported peace and dialogue in South Caucasus inclusive. Is the position the same under the new leadership?
Oh, absolutely. Canada has a long-standing commitment to international peace and security and the peaceful resolution of disputes. This has been consistent under every Canadian government that I can think of, regardless of which prime minister and which political party. And very specifically with regards to the South Caucasus, no, we have a very, again, long-standing position in support of peace. And there is, I would say, from my experience as going through it as the recently appointed ambassador, of appearing before several parliamentary committees, and even in my previous job where I was dealing with this region from the Foreign Ministry in Ottawa, similar experiences, it's very clear to me that there is strong cross-partisan support for Canada-Armenia ties. So obviously in the case now where Prime Minister Carney has been re-elected, and his government, of course, was a continuation from Prime Minister Trudeau's government previously, there is even less reason to suspect that there will be any major shift in that stance. But I really do see it as an area where there is broad cross-partisan support amongst all of the major Canadian political parties for supporting Canada-Armenia relations and to make them even stronger.
Both Baku and Yerevan recently announced that the peace negotiations had reached an end, but then Baku stepped back and the peace agreement was not signed. More than 50 states, Canada included, had welcomed the announced end of negotiations, but we can see that statements bear little weight for Baku. How far is Canada willing to go to ensure that peace is the new reality in South Caucasus? What are the tools in your toolkit have not been used yet or are still in wait?
Well, I think we have demonstrated our increased engagement in the South Caucasus and our increased commitment to peace through that increased engagement in recent years. So I think most visibly by the opening of the embassy here in Yerevan, but while we do not have an embassy in Azerbaijan, our embassy in Turkey covers both Azerbaijan and Georgia in addition to Turkey, and additional resources were made available for that embassy as well to deal with the non-resident accreditations. So whilst it is not the same level as we have here in Yerevan, we have increased our engagement with Baku and Tbilisi as well in recent years. And this reflects, I think, a fact that Canada was absent too long from the region, and so we're now expanding. Obviously, as a diplomat, in an ideal world, we would have embassies in all of these countries, but given the strong ties between Canada and Armenia, the Canada-Armenia, Armenian-Canadian community, the work we're able to do here in Armenia and strengthening Armenian democracy, it did make sense for the embassy to be open here. We are using all of our diplomatic tools, though, to engage with Baku, as well as to engage with Ankara, which has a much closer relationship with Azerbaijan than Canada does. We have, again, unlike many countries, Canada is a major oil and gas producer, and therefore we don't have major energy exports or imports from Azerbaijan. So our relations are not as close, but we do use whatever opportunities we have, both through the bilateral work of our embassy in Ankara, which visits regularly, as well as in the multilateral system through the UN, through the OSCE, through all of these bodies that exist, to reiterate that we think that it would be a very positive step for Baku and Yerevan to sign the peace agreement as soon as possible and to move forward. So we continue to use all of those tools. Obviously, we have also, as discussed, taken steps such as the opening of the embassy, so we're better informed, better able to monitor what is going on here, our participation in the Yuma Observer Mission to help reinforce the idea of providing stability on the border. And while we very much hope that Azerbaijan will move in the direction of peace and negotiation, as Minister Joly stated when she came here in October of 2023 to open the embassy, in the event of military attack, she was very clear that all options would remain on the table, including the imposition of economic sanctions. So obviously the hope is very much that the discussions will continue and move forward, and again the progress that has been achieved since then in terms of the agreement on the border demarcation, now the agreement on the draft text, these are all very positive signals, and so we very much are focused on that diplomatic avenue, and I think that it's very clear that Armenia has shown it is committed to peace. It is putting forward constructive win-win proposals like the Crossroads for Peace that would benefit everyone in the South Caucasus. And so we remain hopeful that this positive outreach will receive a positive response from Azerbaijan, and certainly we are continuing to do everything we can to encourage that.
Thank you for this opportunity one more time.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much.